The first thing the rancher noticed wasn't the little girl's voice. It was the silence. Out on the prairie, silence usually meant something was wrong. He had been mending a broken fence post near the north pasture when the wind shifted. The cattle had been restless all morning, nudging toward the water trough even though it wasn't dry. The sky was wide and pale, the kind of afternoon that made you squint even when you weren't looking at anything. Then he saw them. Two small figures walking up the dirt road that cut through his land. No car. No horse. Just dust around their ankles and miles of nothing behind them. The older one couldn't have been more than 8. Maybe 9 if life had been kind. She held the hand of a toddler who stumbled every few steps, dragging one worn shoe through gravel. They didn't look around the way lost children usually do. They walked like they knew exactly where they were going. The rancher set his hammer down slowly. By the time they reached the gate, the little one was crying without sound. The kind of cry where the face trembles but no voice comes out. The older girl opened the gate herself. She didn't ask permission. She walked up to him, stood straight despite the shaking in her shoulders and said, "Please, can you give me work?" Not help. Not water. The rancher stared at her. He had seen drought, foreclosure, men sleeping in their trucks after losing everything. But this was different. "You're a long way from town," he said carefully. She nodded. He looked at the toddler clinging to her leg. "Where's your parents?" The girl's fingers tightened around her sister's hand. For a second, her eyes flicked toward the open land behind her. Then she said, "We can work hard." She didn't answer the question. That was the first thing that felt wrong. The rancher's name was Daniel Harper, 53, widowed, 2 grown sons who had moved to the city and called once a month if they remembered. He lived alone in a weathered farmhouse that had stood longer than he had been alive. He had rules. No strangers. No trouble. No complications. But the toddler swayed on her feet. Daniel cleared his throat. "You can't just walk onto somebody's land asking for work. You got a name?" "Emily," the older girl said. "This is Lily." Lily hid her face in Emily's dress. "How far did you walk?" Emily didn't answer that either. Daniel felt the weight of something he didn't understand settling over the moment. The road they'd come from led nowhere except a closed gas station 30 miles back. No houses. No school. No shelter. He stepped closer. Emily didn't flinch. That bothered him more than if she had. "You hungry?" he asked. Lily's head lifted slightly at the word. Emily hesitated. Then she nodded once. Daniel exhaled slowly. "You don't need work. You need food." Emily's chin lifted. "We can earn it." The wind picked up again, lifting dust around their feet. Something had happened. But whatever it was, she wasn't going to say it. Not yet. Inside the farmhouse, the kitchen smelled like black coffee and dry wood. Lily sat at the table and stared at the plate Daniel set in front of her like it might disappear. Scrambled eggs. Toast. A glass of milk. She didn't move until Emily whispered, "It's okay." Then she ate too fast. Emily didn't. Emily took small bites, eyes tracking every sound in the room. Daniel poured himself coffee but didn't drink it. He watched the way Emily kept her body angled between him and her sister. Protective. Alert. "You run away?" he asked finally. Emily froze. Lily kept chewing. Daniel softened his voice. "Nobody's in trouble here. I just need to know what's going on." Emily swallowed slowly. "We didn't run. That's not what I asked." Her jaw tightened. For a moment he thought she wouldn't answer at all. Then she said, "We left." "Left what?" "Left who?" Daniel leaned back in his chair. "You can't just leave without someone looking for you." Emily's hands trembled slightly. She pressed them flat on the table to hide it. "No one's looking," she said. That was the second thing that felt wrong. Hours passed. Daniel called the county office under the excuse of asking about feed supplies. He didn't mention the girls. Not yet. Something in Emily's eyes told him that would break whatever thin trust had formed. Instead, he walked the perimeter of his property, pretending to check fences. He kept thinking about the way she said, "We left." Not ran. Not escaped. Well, when he returned to the house, He found Lily asleep on the couch with a blanket tucked around her. Emily sat on the floor beside her, back against the wall, eyes open. "You don't have to sit like that," Daniel said quietly. "I'm fine. You can use the spare room." Emily shook her head. "We won't stay long. Where you planning to go?" Silence. Daniel crouched down to her level. "Emily, you're a child." Her gaze met his. There was no anger there. Just exhaustion that didn't belong on a face that young. "I know," she said. That night Daniel didn't sleep much. He kept listening for the sound of a truck on the gravel road. For headlights sweeping across his windows. For someone shouting names into the dark. Nothing came. At dawn he found Emily outside trying to lift a feed bucket nearly half her size. "What are you doing?" he snapped. "You said you needed help," she replied. "I didn't." She struggled to steady the bucket. Daniel walked over and took it from her. "This isn't how it works." "How does it work?" she asked. He didn't have an answer. Later that morning, while Lily napped again, Emily stood at the fence watching the cattle. Daniel joined her. "You afraid of me?" he asked suddenly. Emily considered the question. "No. You should be careful around strangers." She shrugged faintly. "We've met worse." The air between them shifted. "Worse how?" Daniel pressed. Emily's throat moved as she swallowed. Then she reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out something folded. A photograph. She handed it to him. It showed two girls standing in front of a trailer home. A woman behind them, arm resting on Emily's shoulder. The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. Daniel looked closer. There was a bruise near the woman's collarbone. Barely visible. But there. "Is that your mama?" he asked. Emily nodded. "Where is she?" Emily didn't answer. Instead she said, "She told me if anything ever happened. I had to take Lily somewhere safe." Daniel felt the weight of those words settle heavy in his chest. "What happened?" Emily's eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back hard. She didn't wake up. The world seemed to narrow. From what? Silence again. But this silence wasn't guarded. It was broken. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Did you tell anyone?" Emily shook her head. "He said not to." She didn't say the name. But she didn't need to. Daniel stood very still. The prairie felt different now. Smaller. Closer. "How long ago?" he asked. 2 days. 2 days. Two children had walked miles across open land carrying a secret like that. "You came here because," he began. "Because you don't drink," Emily said. Daniel frowned. "What?" "We used to drive past here. Mama said you were the only one around who didn't." He didn't know what to do with that. He had spent years thinking his isolation made him invisible. And yet this little girl had been watching. That afternoon, Daniel finally made the call. Not to the county office. To the sheriff. He kept his voice low, stepping outside so Emily couldn't hear. When he came back in, she was standing in the doorway. "You called someone," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." Her face went pale. "I had to." "You promised," she whispered. "I didn't promise anything. You said we were safe." "You are safe." Her hands clenched at her sides. "If he finds out." "He won't." "You don't know that." For the first time, fear broke through her calm. Daniel realized something then. Emily hadn't come for work. She had come to disappear. The sheriff arrived just before sunset. His cruiser kicked up a cloud of dust that lingered in the orange light. Emily stepped in front of Lily instinctively. Daniel walked out to meet him. They spoke quietly near the fence. When the sheriff's expression changed from curiosity to something darker, Daniel felt his stomach drop. "What is it?" he asked. The sheriff looked toward the house. "There was a call 2 days ago," he said slowly. "Anonymous. About a disturbance at a trailer near Miller's Creek." Daniel's pulse pounded. And when deputies got there, nobody answered. He paused. But there was blood. The wind moved through the tall grass like a warning. Daniel turned back toward the house. Emily was watching him through the window. Waiting. He realized then that whatever happened next would change all of their lives. And for the first time in years he understood something clearly. Work wasn't what she had come for. She had come for someone who wouldn't look away. And now he couldn't. The sheriff didn't walk toward the house right away. He stood beside Daniel at the fence, hat tilted back slightly, eyes fixed on the farmhouse window where Emily's small silhouette was still visible. "You said she claims her mother didn't wake up?" the sheriff asked quietly. Daniel nodded. "She didn't use the word dead. Just said she didn't wake up." The sheriff exhaled slowly. "The blood we found, it wasn't a small amount." Daniel felt the words settle in his chest like cold iron. "And the man?" Daniel asked. "Boyfriend," the sheriff replied. "Name's Travis Hale. Prior charges. Assault. Public intoxication. Nothing that stuck long." Daniel didn't like the sound of that. "Is he missing?" "Truck's gone. Phone's off. Neighbors say they heard shouting that night." Daniel looked back at the house again. Emily hadn't moved. "She said he told her not to tell anyone," Daniel said. The sheriff's jaw tightened. "That tracks." A gust of wind bent the tall prairie grass low, like the land itself was bracing. "You think he knows they're gone?" Daniel asked. "If he went back and found the girls missing?" The sheriff didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Inside the house, Emily had picked Lily up and was backing toward the hallway. "She thinks we're giving her up," Daniel muttered. "We need to talk to her," the sheriff said. Gently. They stepped onto the porch together. The boards creaked under their weight. Daniel knocked once before opening the door. Emily stood in the center of the room now, Lily clutched tight against her chest despite the toddler's sleepy protests. Her eyes locked onto the sheriff's badge. "You said we were safe," she said to Daniel, voice small but steady. "You are," Daniel answered. "This is Sheriff Cole. He's here to help." "I don't need help," she replied. "I need work." Sheriff Cole crouched slowly, lowering himself to her eye level. "Emily, right?" She didn't nod. "We just want to understand what happened." Her gaze shifted to Daniel, searching for something. Permission. Betrayal. Reassurance. He gave her a small nod. "He needs to know." Emily swallowed. "Did Travis hurt your mama?" the sheriff asked softly. Emily's jaw tightened. Lily stirred against her shoulder. "He was loud," she said finally. "That night." "He was always loud." "That night," the sheriff repeated gently. Emily closed her eyes for a second, like she was stepping back into it. "He was yelling about money. Mama told him to leave. He pushed her." Sheriff Cole didn't interrupt. "She hit the table," Emily continued. "Then he kept yelling." Her breathing became uneven, but she didn't cry. "I took Lily to the bedroom. Mama told me to lock the door." Daniel felt his hands curl into fists at his sides. "What happened next?" the sheriff asked. There was a long pause. Then Emily said, "It got quiet. The kind of quiet that means something has ended. I waited," she said. "Then I went out." Her voice dropped to almost nothing. She was on the floor. The room seemed to shrink. "Was Travis there?" the sheriff asked. "No." "Was there blood?" Emily nodded once. "Did you touch her?" Another nod. "She was warm," Emily whispered. "But she wouldn't wake up." Daniel looked away for a moment, staring at the old kitchen cabinets like they could steady him. "What did you do then?" Sheriff Cole asked. Emily's chin lifted slightly. "I cleaned Lily up, packed some clothes, took the picture." "Did you call anyone?" Emily shook her head. "Why not?" She looked at Daniel when she answered. "Because last time we called, nobody helped." Sheriff Cole's expression shifted. "Last time?" he asked. Emily hesitated. "Travis hurt Mama before," she said. "We called. They talked. Then they left." Cole's shoulders sagged slightly. Daniel understood something then. This wasn't just fear. This was learned silence. "How did you get here?" the sheriff asked. "We walked. That's 30 miles. Emily shrugged faintly. "We rested." "You knew about this ranch?" "We used to pass it." She didn't elaborate. Daniel felt something tight in his chest. He remembered seeing an old sedan drive past every now and then, dust trailing behind it. He'd never paid attention to who was inside. but someone had been looking at him. Choosing. Sheriff Cole stood slowly. "Emily, I need to go to your house. I need to see what happened." Her grip on Lily tightened. "If he's there." "He won't hurt you," Daniel said firmly. "You don't know that," she shot back. And she was right. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the prairie. Sheriff Cole radioed for backup before heading out toward Miller's Creek. Daniel stayed behind. Emily didn't move from the center of the room for several minutes after the cruiser disappeared down the road. Then she sat on the floor, still holding Lily. "You didn't have to call," she said quietly. "Yes, I did." She didn't argue. After a while she asked, "If Mama's really gone, what happens to us?" Daniel didn't have a good answer. "You won't go back there," he said carefully. "Where then?" He thought about the county system. Foster homes. Paperwork. Strangers. He thought about the way she had walked up to his gate and asked for work instead of help. "You'll stay here tonight," he said. "And tomorrow? We'll figure it out." She studied him like she was measuring the truth in his words. "People always say that," she murmured. Night fell fully before Sheriff Cole returned. This time there were 2 cruisers. Emily went rigid at the sound. Daniel stepped outside before they could knock. Cole's face was pale in the porch light. "It's bad," he said quietly. Daniel's stomach dropped. "She was dead when deputies arrived 2 days ago," Cole continued. "Medical examiner estimates she died the night of the disturbance." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. "And Travis?" "Gone." "Any sign he's coming back?" Cole hesitated. "We found tire tracks heading west." "And Daniel?" "What?" "There were signs someone moved around inside after." Daniel's pulse spiked. "After she died?" Cole nodded. "Drawers open. Things missing. But not everything." "Like what?" "Like the girl's room." Daniel's blood ran cold. "You think he looked for them?" "I think he did." Inside the house, a floorboard creaked. Emily was standing just behind the door. She had heard enough. "He came back," she whispered. Neither man spoke. "He knows we left," she said. The truth settled between them, heavy and unavoidable. The prairie suddenly didn't feel empty anymore. It felt exposed. Sheriff Cole stepped closer. "Emily, we're going to put out an alert. We'll find him." She shook her head slowly. "He always finds us first." Daniel felt something shift inside him then. For years he had kept his life small, contained, safe in its solitude. But standing on that porch, looking at 2 children who had crossed miles of open land to escape something brutal, he understood something simple and sharp. Running wasn't going to be enough. "He won't come here," Daniel said. "You can't guarantee that," Cole replied. Daniel's voice hardened. "He won't." Emily looked at him carefully. "You don't even know him," she said. "No," Daniel replied. "But I know this land." The wind picked up again, pushing against the side of the house. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote cried out. Sheriff Cole studied Daniel for a long moment. "I'll post a patrol near the road tonight." Daniel nodded. As the cruisers pulled away again, headlights sweeping across the prairie before vanishing into darkness, Daniel turned back to the house. Emily hadn't moved. "Go to bed," he told her gently. She didn't argue this time. But she didn't sleep in the spare room. She slept on the floor beside Lily. And Daniel sat at the kitchen table with a shotgun resting across his lap, staring at the window, waiting. Because somewhere out there, a man had returned to a blood-stained trailer and found 2 little girls gone. And if Emily was right, he would come looking. The prairie after midnight doesn't sound the way people think it does. It isn't silent. It breathes. Wood contracts in the cooling air. Fence wire hums when the wind shifts. Cattle move in slow, heavy rhythms, hooves pressing into dry soil. Every sound carries. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, the old shotgun resting across his knees, and learned the difference between normal noise and the kind that doesn't belong. Around 1 in the morning, the cattle shifted all at once. Not wandering. Startled. Daniel stood slowly. He stepped onto the porch without turning on the lights. The moon was thin but bright enough to silver the fields. The north pasture stretched wide and empty. Then he saw it. A faint pair of headlights far beyond the fence line. Too far to be on his main road. Too close to be coincidence. They disappeared. Not like a car passing. Like someone had turned them off. Daniel didn't move for several seconds. His pulse stayed steady. Years on the ranch had taught him that panic wastes energy. But his jaw tightened. Inside the house, a floorboard creaked. Emily was awake. She stepped onto the porch without a sound, Lily wrapped in a blanket in her arms. She didn't ask what he saw. She just followed his gaze. "He's here," she said quietly. "You don't know that." She didn't argue. But she didn't look convinced either. Daniel listened. Nothing. Just wind. Just cattle. Just the prairie pretending to be empty. After 10 long minutes, he guided her back inside. "Lock the bedroom door," he told her. "Stay there." "What about you?" "I'll be here." She hesitated. Then she did something unexpected. She set Lily down gently on the couch, walked back to him and placed something in his hand. The folded photograph. "If he comes," she said, "don't let him take this." Daniel looked at her, confused. "Why?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because there's something on the back." He unfolded it. On the back of the photo in faint pen were numbers. Not random. A date. And underneath it a single word. Storage. Daniel looked up. "What is this?" "Mama wrote it," Emily said. "The day before." "The day before what?" She swallowed. "Before she didn't wake up." Daniel's mind moved quickly now. "You think she left something?" Emily nodded. "She said if anything ever happened, I had to remember the numbers." "Why didn't you tell the sheriff?" "Because if Travis knows," she didn't finish. The implication hung heavy. If Travis knew something had been hidden. If Travis had been searching the trailer. If Travis had already looked for it. Daniel felt the shape of the situation change. This wasn't just a violent man running. This was a man looking for something. And he hadn't found it. "Do you know where the storage is?" Daniel asked. Emily shook her head. She didn't say. Just the numbers. She nodded. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Go to the room," he said again. This time she went. Daniel locked the doors, checked every window twice, and stayed awake until sunrise. The headlights didn't return. But neither did his sense of safety. At first light, Sheriff Cole arrived. He hadn't slept either. "Deputy found fresh tire tracks about a mile out," Cole said as soon as he stepped inside. "Not on your main road." Daniel didn't act surprised. "He was watching," he replied. Cole's eyes sharpened. "You saw something?" Daniel nodded. He hesitated only a second before handing over the photograph. Cole turned it over, studying the numbers. "What is this?" "Her mother left something," Daniel said. "We think." Cole's expression shifted. "Left what?" "We don't know." Emily stood in the hallway listening. Cole crouched to her level again. "Emily, sweetheart, did your mama ever mention a storage unit? A place she kept things?" Emily thought carefully. "She had a key," she said slowly. "On a necklace. She took it off that night." "Where did she put it?" Emily closed her eyes. "I don't know." Cole looked at Daniel. "If there's something hidden," Cole said quietly, "that could be why he came back." "Or why he's still around," Daniel replied. Cole stood. "I'll check every storage facility within 50 miles. See if any match that date." "And if Travis is watching?" Daniel asked. Cole's face hardened. "Then we'll flush him out." But even as he said it, the words felt thin. Because the prairie was wide. And a desperate man with nothing left to lose could disappear out there for days. Maybe weeks. The next few days passed in a strange tension. Deputies patrolled the road more often. Emily stayed close to the house. Lily began to laugh again in small bursts, chasing dust motes through the kitchen light like nothing had happened. Daniel noticed Emily watching the horizon more than the cattle. She didn't play. She calculated. On the third day, Sheriff Cole returned with news. "There's a storage facility in Brookfield," he said. "Small one. The date matches a rental under your mother's name." Emily's breath caught. "Is it still active?" Daniel asked. Cole nodded. Paid up for 3 months. Has anyone accessed it? Manager says no one since the rental. Daniel's mind raced. So whatever's in there, he doesn't have it. Cole's eyes darkened. Not yet. Emily stepped forward. Can we go? Cole hesitated. Daniel answered first. Yes. The drive to Brookfield was quiet. Emily sat in the back beside Lily, clutching the photograph. Daniel followed behind in his truck while Cole led the way. The storage facility sat behind a faded chain-link fence. Rows of metal doors baking under the sun. It looked harmless. Ordinary. Cole unlocked the gate. Unit 17, he said. They walked slowly down the row. Daniel felt the weight of each step. When Cole reached the door marked 17, he paused. You sure you want to see this? He asked Emily. She nodded. He slid the metal door upward. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Inside there wasn't much. A single plastic bin. And a small locked safe. Emily stared at it like it might move. Daniel stepped inside first. He lifted the bin. Inside were clothes. A few papers. Nothing dramatic. Cole crouched in front of the safe. Got a combination? He asked. Emily shook her head. Cole studied the numbers on the photograph. The date. He tried it. The dial clicked once. Twice. Then. A soft mechanical pop. The safe door opened. Inside were documents. Photographs. And a small flash drive. Daniel picked up the photos first. They weren't family pictures. They were bruises. Dated. Recorded. Different days. Different angles. Emily's mother had been documenting everything. Underneath them were printed screenshots of text messages. Threats. Apologies. Threats again. Cole's face went rigid. She was building a case, he said. Daniel picked up the flash drive. Cole looked at him. If there's video on that? Emily's voice trembled slightly. Will it prove it? Cole nodded slowly. Yes. Daniel felt the pieces shift again. Travis hadn't just killed a woman. He had silenced someone who was preparing to expose him. And if he knew this existed, he would be desperate. Cole carefully gathered the evidence. We'll get a warrant, he said. We'll circulate everything. He won't be able to hide long. But even as they stepped out of the unit, Daniel felt eyes on them. The kind of instinct you can't explain. He turned slowly. At the far end of the lot, beyond the chain-link fence, a pickup truck sat parked under a tree. Engine off. Windows dark. It hadn't been there when they arrived. Daniel's pulse spiked. Cole, he said quietly. The sheriff followed his gaze. The truck didn't move. Didn't start. Just sat there. Watching. And for the first time since the girls had walked up his road, Daniel understood something clearly. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Sheriff Cole didn't reach for his weapon. Not yet. He stood still beside Daniel outside the storage unit, eyes locked on the pickup at the far edge of the lot. The truck's windows were tinted too dark to see inside. Engine off. No visible movement. But it hadn't been there before. Daniel felt the same tight calm settle over him that he'd felt the night before when the headlights went dark beyond his pasture. He followed, Emily whispered behind them. Neither man turned around, but they both heard the tremor in her voice. Cole spoke without looking away from the truck. Emily, get back inside my cruiser. Lock the door. She didn't argue. Daniel heard the quick rhythm of her shoes on gravel, Lily's small whimper as she was lifted again. The truck still didn't move. Cole reached for his radio. Dispatch, I need a unit at Brookfield Storage. Possible suspect vehicle. Black Ford pickup, older model, west lot. Static crackled back. Still the truck didn't move. It felt wrong. Too patient. Daniel shifted slightly to get a clearer angle on the license plate. That's when the engine turned over. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just steady. The truck rolled forward slowly, tires crunching over gravel, then turned toward the exit gate. Cole stepped into the open lane. Sheriff's Department, he shouted. Cut the engine. The truck didn't accelerate. It didn't slow. It just kept moving. Cole stepped aside at the last second, hand hovering near his holster but never drawing. The pickup passed through the open gate and turned onto the county road. Daniel caught a glimpse of the driver through the windshield. Unshaven. Eyes fixed straight ahead. No panic. Just calculation. Cole jumped into his cruiser and took off. Daniel stood frozen for a second, then ran to his truck and followed. The chase didn't last long. The pickup veered off the main road onto a dirt service path that cut toward open prairie land, terrain too uneven for cruisers to follow at speed. Daniel slowed before he lost control. Cole's siren cut through the air, but within seconds the pickup disappeared over a ridge of tall grass and low hills. Gone. Daniel stopped his truck at the edge of the dirt path. Cole pulled up beside him moments later, face tight. "He knows this land," Daniel muttered. Cole nodded grimly. "Or he's reckless." Daniel looked out at the open prairie. It wasn't just open. It was endless. "He'll come back," Emily had said. And now Daniel believed her. Back at the ranch, deputies increased patrols. The evidence from the storage unit moved quickly. The flash drive contained video files, recordings of arguments, threats. One clip showed Travis shoving Emily's mother against a kitchen counter while she begged him to stop. The timestamp was just days before her death. There was enough there for a warrant. But warrants didn't matter if you couldn't find the man. That night, Emily didn't ask what happened at the storage lot. She already knew. "He saw us," she said quietly while sitting at the kitchen table. "Yes," Daniel replied. She stared at the photograph again. "He won't stop," she said. Daniel leaned against the counter. "We won't let him near you." She didn't look convinced. Over the next 48 hours, tension stretched thin across the ranch like wire pulled too tight. Deputies found signs of someone camping near an abandoned windmill 2 miles west. A small fire pit. Boot prints. Fresh. Then just before dusk on the third night after the storage discovery, Daniel's cattle stampeded. Not restless. Not shifting. Stampeding. Daniel was already outside when he heard it. A sharp crack echoed across the pasture. Gunshot. Not aimed at him. Aimed at the air. But close enough. Daniel's blood went cold. Inside the house, Emily screamed. Daniel ran toward the barn, shotgun in hand. Another shot rang out. Closer. Sheriff Cole's patrol unit had just pulled onto the road when the second shot echoed. He hit his siren immediately. From behind the old grain silo, a figure emerged. Travis Hale. Thinner than his photo. Eyes hollow. Rifle hanging loose in one hand. He wasn't running. He was walking. Straight toward the house. Daniel stepped between him and the porch. "This ends here," Daniel said, voice steady. Travis laughed once. It wasn't loud. "She in there?" he asked. Daniel didn't answer. Travis's gaze flicked to the window where Emily stood frozen. "She took something that ain't hers," Travis said. "It was never yours," Daniel replied. Another siren wailed in the distance. Travis's jaw tightened. "You don't know what she did," he snapped. Daniel held his ground. "I know enough." Travis raised the rifle slightly. Not fully aimed, but enough. "You think you're some hero?" Travis muttered. "You think she told you the whole story?" Daniel's grip tightened on the shotgun. "Tell me," he said evenly. Travis hesitated. For a split second, something flickered in his expression. Fear. Then rage swallowed it. "She was gonna ruin me," Travis hissed. "Take everything." "She was protecting her kids," Daniel shot back. Another cruiser tore down the road. Travis looked toward the sound. And that was when he made the mistake. He turned his body slightly. Lowered the rifle just enough. Cole's voice thundered from behind him. "Drop it. Now." Travis froze. Seconds stretched long and fragile. Then, slowly, he let the rifle fall into the grass. Deputies moved in fast. Cuffed. Forced to his knees. He didn't fight. He just stared at the house. At the window. At Emily. Emily didn't move. She watched him the way someone watches a storm finally break apart. Silent. Unblinking. When they put him in the cruiser, he didn't shout threats. He didn't beg. He just leaned his head back and closed his eyes. As if something inside him had finally collapsed. The prairie grew quiet again. Not tense. Just still. Cole walked up to Daniel slowly. "You okay?" he asked. Daniel nodded once. Emily stepped onto the porch. For the first time since she arrived, she wasn't holding Lily like a shield. She walked down the steps alone. She stopped several feet from Travis's cruiser. He opened his eyes. Their gazes met. No words passed between them. None were needed. Then the cruiser door shut, and the vehicle drove away. The days that followed were quieter than Daniel expected. Not peaceful, but different. Paperwork moved quickly. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings, the photographs, the timeline. Charges stacked high. Emily was interviewed carefully, gently. She answered questions without trembling, without hiding. The truth had nothing left to protect. A week later, Daniel stood in the pasture watching Lily chase a butterfly near the fence. Emily sat on the porch steps, bare feet in the dust. "You don't have to stay here," Daniel said quietly as he joined her. She looked out at the horizon. "I know. You have options now." She nodded. Silence settled between them. After a while she said, "Mama said if we ever found somewhere quiet, we should listen to it." Daniel glanced at her. "What does quiet sound like?" he asked. Emily thought for a long moment. "It sounds like nobody's afraid." Daniel looked out at the open prairie. The wind moved through the grass in slow waves. No sirens. No shouting. No engines cutting their lights in the distance. Just space. And breath. "You still want work?" he asked gently. She almost smiled. "Maybe when I'm older." He nodded. A social worker would come soon. There would be court dates. Decisions. Futures to arrange. Nothing was simple. Nothing was neat. But something had shifted. Emily didn't stand like she was bracing anymore. She stood like someone who had survived something she didn't fully understand yet. Daniel rested his arms on the fence. For years he had believed isolation was protection. That distance kept trouble away. But trouble had found him anyway. And in the middle of it, he had found something he hadn't expected. Purpose. As the sun dipped lower over the prairie, Emily picked up the photograph one last time. Then she folded it carefully and placed it back in her pocket. Not as a shield. Not as proof. But as memory. The wind moved softly across the land. And for the first time since two small figures walked up a long dirt road and asked for work instead of help. The silence felt earned.